I've developed my identity, the more I've become clear on who I am and what I desire in my life, the more of an impact, the more of a difference that I've made in the lives of the people who follow me. So if I compare my leadership to the kind of leadership that I had before, so for example, when I was a store manager, for example, and I thought in order to get a promotion, I had to work all the extra hours. I had to stay later than everyone else, show up earlier than everyone else, leave the problems at the door, really just be a robot. Like, hello, how may I help you? Like very disconnected from everyone, professionalism in the workplace, a leader because I'm allowed, a leader because I have the position, because I said so, which is the mothering energy, and feeling like I deserved to be listened to because it came with the position. That's kind of what leadership is, what I could see before. And what kind of people are attracted to that leadership are people who are okay to be led in that way, which means they don't have a leadership magic inside of them. Because anyone that has leadership magic inside of them, who tries to be led by someone who just tells them what to do and says, you better do what you're told, and says, leave your problems at the door, and says, be the first one in, the last one out, because I said so, is going to feel like, I don't know what you're thinking, but that's not how I work over here. You're not going to make me do that. Anyone who has self-leadership does not like to be micromanaged. Anyone that has self-leadership tends to not like having a job, tends to not like having a boss, tends to not like being told what to do. So the leadership we've always known doesn't work with leaders. So what happens? Most leaders are left to their own devices. They end up taking care of everyone else, and they say things like it's lonely at the top. It should not be lonely at the top, because if there's a bunch of us at the top, why the heck are we lonely? And there's a whole bunch of people on this planet that have leadership skills that are extraordinary, that are meant to lead people, that have the art of people, and that want to create brilliant businesses and know how to network and connect with people and have these incredible ways of speaking and communicating and moving people. And they're going to be alone at the top because it's lonely at the top. It feels so crazy that we haven't developed leadership beyond that. So when I first started my journey of entrepreneurship, I would look at the people that I admired and I would ask myself, I wonder who coaches them? Who's the coach for the coaches, the successful ones? Who's the leader for the top leaders? Who do they listen to in the network marketing industry? Who's the CEO for the CEOs? Why is it always people talking down to people who don't know what they're doing yet and that are trying to figure things out and they don't really know what's going on? And like, why is that leadership? How is that even leadership training? Just a person dictating to other people that they should move. How is that leadership? I started feeling into it. I know that I'm a leader. I have been a leader most of my life. And when you're an out of power leader, a lot of times what you do is you make sure that you're always surrounded by people who will let you lead. You'll always make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. You'll always make sure that you're in control of all the things by making sure that you're the smartest, most advanced, most powerful person in the room, which will cap your growth. So this is what I would do. I would be the smartest, strongest person in the room, in a room that didn't inspire me. So I asked myself, like, what would it take for me to be truly motivated and inspired by a leader? What would make me choose a leader? What would make me desire to follow a training from a coach? What would make me desire to follow a person on social media? What would make me desire to listen and to learn and to know more? And I asked myself, is it the fact that they're a self-appointed leader or that someone tells me they're a leader? Is it how much money they make? What is it? What makes me want to follow the leader, right? I'm so happy you're loving this. So what makes me want to follow the leader? What makes me want to say, I want to go where you're going. I'll follow that. I'll listen to that. What's necessary for me to want to follow a person? And I found that most of the conventional things that I would have expected the answer to be were not it. I don't really care about how much money you make if you're miserable. I don't really care about the fact that you've got a super attractive husband if you're fighting with him all the time. I don't really care about the fact that you've achieved this thing if you're miserable, if you're not happy, if your life is not fulfilled. I don't really care that you're well spoken if you're speaking about things that you haven't embodied. Here's what I care about. I care about that in the area I desire to be led, the person who is leading me has the thing I desire and they are happy in their lives. If I desire wealth, I want the person I learn wealth from to be wealthy and to be so happy in their life around that wealth. If I am learning relationships, I want to learn relationships from a person who is in an amazing relationship and loves their relationship and is so happy. If I'm learning leadership, I want to learn from a person who leads, who's an incredible leader and who loves being a leader. If I don't have those pieces of the puzzle, that's not the right leader for me. So what I started to realize is that the more leadership we have, the harder it is for us to accept someone as a leader in our lives, because it's not enough that they just know things. We don't care so much about what people know. We care about what knowing what they know has done for them. Like, oh, you know about money mindset? Great. How has that helped you? Are you financially free? Oh, you know about how to speak with men and how to decode language with men. You know how to do that? Is your relationship extraordinary? You know these things. And what does knowing these things do for you? So what I realized is if I was going to attract and magnetize leaders, I was going to have to learn the language of leaders. And the number one thing a leader desires is to be seen as a leader. How do you speak to a person that is a leader and who's smart and intelligent and who's done all kinds of things on their own? And then just because you have a leadership position, you go in condescending, telling them they're doing everything wrong, or it'll never work. They're like, who do you think you are? I've been succeeding in life beautifully without you. And you're going to come in here on your high horses and tell me all the things. Who do you think you are? And I understand this because I would feel exactly the same. If someone came in and was like, okay, let me tell you why your leadership doesn't work, or let me tell you why your relationship doesn't work, or here's what you've got to do. And do you feel like this? And do you feel like this? I'd be like, nope, 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 no. So I coined this concept called compound leadership. And why it's compound relationship is like relationship squared. Like a leader who leads a follower is one thing, but a leader who leads a leader, that changes the world. Because when you are empowered in your leadership and you feel held, magic happens. And I work a lot with women, and I know that women tend to give even from an empty cup. We give because we think we should. We give because we think we need to. We give because if we don't, we feel guilty. We give even when there's nothing left. And when we give from an empty cup, we're literally giving everything we've got. And then the next woman feels like she needs to do the same, and she gives until she gives from an empty cup. And by the time we've gone down this fountain of emptiness and we get to the bottom, the well runs dry and we're not there to support each other. What do we find is bitterness, competition, jealousy, and just not enough fuel to start the fountain over. So what we really want to do is to be pouring into each other from a place of abundance and overflow, that we really feel so full and happy in our lives that when we overflow into a woman who feels full, and that overflowing overflows into another woman who feels full, and we're filling each other's cup. When a leader leads a leader, I'm not going to pour into you from an empty cup, because if I don't, you're going to be mad at me because you need me because you can't lead yourself. That's a path that leads to exhaustion. And a lot of times this is where we get stuck, is we choose people who need us to overflow into them no matter how empty we are. And if we take a break, and if we decide that we can't handle it right now, that we need some space for ourselves, they feel bitter and resentful and like it's about them. They don't understand boundaries. They take everything personally. It's a very difficult thing to take on, the responsibility of being the pedestal leader. So the pedestal leader is the one who is a leader because it feels good to the ego. It means I want to be the boss. I want to be the ego. I want to be people to look up to me. I want to be the leader. I want people to look up to me and say, you are the reason. You did everything. You are amazing. I want that. And the issue is that when we become that kind of leader, we're put on a pedestal and people expect that we will be and do certain things. Not even because we've promised we would, but because when they look at us, they start to imagine what a perfect human would be and what a perfect human would do. And because we're so attached to looking like a perfect human, they start to believe we're a perfect human. And next thing you know, the expectation list of who we should be is like 10 miles long. And the minute we do one thing out of line, The heartbreak they experience around the illusion shattering is one of the most difficult things. They're so disappointed. They're so sad. We fall from so high, and the relationship is not reparable. Now, when a leader leads a leader, there's a lot of transparency and truth. So you'll notice in the new paradigm of leadership, you're advised to be transparent, to talk about what you're going through, to be honest, to be authentic. Why? Because in that authenticity, you're real. In that authenticity, you don't need to be or appear perfect to be put on a pedestal for people to decide that they're going to listen to your leadership. Instead, you're able to show that in your humanness, in your humanity, in your imperfections, you lead yourself to the result that they desire. And I know that a lot of times people will say to me, like, yeah, but what if I'm not leading myself? Then how do I be a good leader? And I will tell you my honest truth, my opinion is if you cannot lead yourself, you will not be able to lead a leader. And in the world, having leaders in our corner, in our team, that's what's the most important thing. Like, I'm so grateful for every single social media follower I have, and I am so grateful for every single client that comes into my world. I realize what an honor and a privilege it is for a new person to find me, especially right now. For you, it's first thing in the morning. For me, it's 8:30 at night, and I'm speaking to you in a different country because of my connection. You know, what if you are not connected to powerful people? What connects you to powerful people if not powerful people? So if you're not connected, then you've got to do it alone. 2:30 a.m. in Italy. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I'm happy you're here. So when I look at my business and how it's grown, obviously there's people who share my stuff who don't have a network, who don't have big connections. They share my network and people will find me. One or two people will find me from that, and it'll be amazing. When I have an opportunity to come and speak to a group like I'm speaking to you here, that's because Kristie has so much impact and influence. And why does she feel safe in my world is because we're both leaders. She doesn't come to me with something inherently wrong and lacking that she needs me to fix, or else I'm not enough and I don't give her enough. She's amazing. And she finds me and she sees my leadership and she says, wow, when I'm with Melanie, I like it. Like, this is good. This fires me up. This makes me happy. I like this. You know what? I think my network might like this. And then next thing, I'm speaking in a network where there's all these incredible people. Why? Because Kristie's already a leader. She's already a leader. So compound leadership is what happens when you magnetize people that actually have impact and influence. And in everything in life, leadership is one of the greatest things you can have. If you're in network marketing and your people are just not connected, it's so much harder to have them build a team because they're not already connected. You can teach them leadership skills and you can try to help them, but if they're already not feeling super powerful and their idea of leadership is to find people that are a little less powerful than them so they can lead them and tell them what to do, this means that your leadership, it means that your organization actually gets weaker and weaker with every generation. If the only way you're able to lead is by leading a person who's a couple of steps behind you, that means that you find people who desire to do good in life and you find a bunch of people who are a few steps behind you. And then they bring into your organization a bunch of people who are a few steps behind them. And then they bring a bunch of people in their organization who are a few steps behind them. And you're building a company that's built on people getting weaker and weaker. It's not very sustainable.